All right, yeah, four guys arrested down here, all in their 60s or 70s. They're going to pump poison into the faces of American citizens. They're going to blow up buildings and assassinate people. Meanwhile, over on Fox News, there is a guy that Fox News has been promoting as an expert on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and this the so-called failed Operation Fast and Furious about gun smuggling into Mexico. This guy's name is Mike Vanderboe, and Fox News has been promoting him, leaving out the fact that he's a militant American terrorist. Fox News has been promoting him and his views on their channel, on their network, for months. All right, what's the connection between these four guys and Mike Vanderboe? Well, let me back up just a little bit. In January this year, Vanderboe was among the first to break that story about the ATF agents that had knowingly allowed gun trafficking suspects to take weapons across the border into Mexico. This is according to Media Matters. According to Republican congressional investigators, the operation was intended to allow law enforcement to identify other members of the trafficking network that for years has directed assault weapons into the hands of Mexican cartels, with the goal of bringing those cartels down. Now, obviously, it failed. But, according to this freak Vanderboe, the failed operation was actually part of a secret plot against the Second Amendment directed from the highest levels of government. And that's a theory, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, that Fox News itself it loves to promote. Now, Vanderboe has been featured in two package reports by Fox News correspondent William Lajeunesse, the most recent of which aired on September 27th of this year. Vanderboe was also cited in a FoxNews.com article earlier this month. Fox has identified Vanderboe as an online journalist and an authority on the Fast and Furious investigation, leaving his extremist past, his use of violent rhetoric, and his propensity for conspiracy theories unmentioned. But that's what Fox does. Now, the four Georgia men who were busted last night, according to FBI, belong to a fringe militia group. They have been charged with plotting an attack against U.S. citizens and federal employees using the biological toxin Ricin, which comes from, castor beans, whatever the hell they are. Don't send me an email. I don't care. Authorities say, here are the guys: 73-year-old Frederick Thomas of Cleveland, Georgia, 67-year-old Dan Roberts, 65-year-old Ray Adams, and 68-year-old Samuel Crump, all of Toccoa, Georgia, began meeting in March of this year as part of a covert group that called itself, well, the Covert Group. That was their name. We're a covert group named the Covert Group. Woo! A confidential FBI source recorded a, quote, clandestine meeting, end quote. This is according to the TPM Muckraker, by the way. A clandestine meeting that took place on St. Patrick's Day of this year at Thomas's house in Cleveland, Georgia, where Thomas, Roberts, and others allegedly discussed how to obtain castor beans to make ricin. Thomas, who allegedly led the meeting, mentioned a fictional novel he read online in which an anti-government group killed a large number of Justice Department attorneys. The online novel in question is called Absolved, written by Mike Vanderboe, a right-wing blogger and former militiaman who lives on government disability checks, who has been featured on Fox News in relation to the Fast and Furious scandal, and who is on Representative Darrell Iss's press release distribution list, and previously advocated on his blog for opponents of the health care law to throw bricks through the windows of Democratic members of Congress. Do. Now, in reaction to these arrests, this Fox News star, Mike Vanderboe, called those arrested, the four men, a geriatric militia, and said he was skeptical of the charges. Now, you can be skeptical of charges, of course, like the Iranian-American used car salesman busted in Texas who allegedly had gone to Mexico or hired somebody, and they were going to hire a narco hit team to go to Washington and kill the Saudi ambassador in order to or you can check out real terrorism. White men in this country who are absolutely incensed because there's a black man in the White House and will do anything. And they're egged on, of course, by Fox News. Anything to cause death and destruction in this country. This is what the Fox organization wants. This is what Roger Ailes wants. This is what Glenn Beck wanted and still does. This is what Bill O'Reilly wants. This is what Sean Hannity wants. This is what all of them want. Because it makes for great television, you know, people shooting at each other and stuff, right? So, these old bastards get together and form this militia called the Covert Group, or they form a covert group called the Covert Group. And then they decide to work up this plot based on this novel put together by a star over at the Fox television network. You follow me so far? All right, more when we come back. Stay with us. So quick recap. 4 older men busted here in Georgia, all white men, all the conspiracy theorists, all paranoid schizophrenics. They set up a covert a group called the Covert Group, and they're going to poison their fellow American citizens and murder their fellow American citizens and blow up the buildings of their fellow American citizens who happen to be government employees. They case several big cities like downtown Atlanta, figure out the best way to blow ricin out car windows to make people sick and die, children, old people, moms, dads, mothers, fathers, PTA members, ministers, rabbis, imams. It doesn't make any difference to these psychotic sons of bitches. So they get infiltrated. They get busted yesterday. All 4 of them busted, held for all these conspiracy charges to commit murder and mayhem. And turns out they were inspired by a guy named Mike Vanderboe, who is a darling over at Fox News, who wrote some kind of a half-ass novel published online called Absolved, that has as its central plot the very same thing that these half-witted jerk white boys up in North Georgia were going to plan to do to their fellow American citizens. Huh? Isn't this nice? Huh? You're afraid of Muslims? You're afraid of Arabs? You're out of your goddamn mind. The real threat to America is these freaks. Anyway, so this Mike Vanderboe, the right-wing incipient armchair, he's an armchair terrorist, you know. He's been members of militia groups. He's on the public dole. He gets government disability checks. It's just your typical half-ass moron who lives a rich fantasy life because he's crazy, because he's a sociopath. But he finds, inadvertently, he doesn't find them, 4 other sociopaths find him. Ooh, did you read that book online? Woo! Let's us go do it.